We have a public service announcement for you, and on today's episode of the Exercises Health Podcast, we are going to not only give you the public service announcement, but tell you what to do about it. We're going to cue our introduction and then dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health Podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg and Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset, and the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and today we have a PSA, a public service announcement that we need to give you, and that is to stop doing the things that are hurting you. Stop doing the things that are hurting you. Consider this you getting permission to stop doing all the things that are hurting you, that are keeping you in pain, that are keeping you feeling achy, that are keeping you feeling tight, and yet that you continue to do. You need to stop doing those things if you actually want to get out of the physical symptom conditions that you're currently in.
I know this seems so straightforward, but the amount of times that we have to tell our clients after hearing their story, hey, why don't we take a temporary break from that activity and let your body heal, let your body get stronger, is mind-blowing, And I think that it goes a little deeper than this, right? I mean, when we say it like this, it seems like, well, of course, don't do the things that bother you. But sometimes the things that are flaring you up, making you feel lousy, making you feel kind of cruddy, are things that you really, really enjoy doing. And so because of that, you don't want to stop doing them. But picture this, maybe having a small break from some of the activities that are flaring you up, making you feel lousy, is actually the springboard that's going to allow you to recover and get stronger so that you can return to these activities without such a weird relationship with them.
Exactly. Okay, so this summer, we were at the park. Actually, I wasn't there. Julie was there with the kids, and she relayed this story to me. I thought it was such a perfect example of this idea that we were trying to convey to you right now. So our son, who was 3 at the time, he was standing on the ledge, and he likes jumping off of structures, and he has a particular fondness of jumping off relatively high structures. And this structure that he was about to jump off was about 6 feet, off the ground. And for reference, he's maybe 3 feet. So he's about double his height, right? And Julie was there, watching our daughter play, and she hears him kind of say to himself, oh, this looks like a nice jump, as he's about to launch himself off this platform that's about 6 feet up in the air. Now, fortunately, she was able to stop him from doing that, okay? But the question is why? Why would she stop him from doing it? It's something that he wanted to do, because when you're dealing with a 3-year-old, like sometimes you have to intervene and say, yeah, that thing that you think you want to do that would seem like it's really fun, it's probably not in your best interest right now. Even if to you, from your vantage point, 6 feet up in the air, more than, twice your height in the air, you think, oh yeah, this looks like it's going to be a nice jump. If you're thinking that, you're probably like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't do that because the aftermath of such is not really that favorable for you. So sometimes we have to break it down really simple. And we have to say, okay, well, what would you tell yourself if you were a 3-year-old in this situation? And the thing that you really wanted to do, the thing that you really enjoyed doing, it just wasn't ending that well for you. Because here's what I've realized is, as much as we all like to be thought of as like super mature and, well-rounded and, astute or whatever, right? We're all just children at some level. And that to me, and I'm throwing myself in there as well. And so this isn't an attack on any one individual, but we all have childlike nature within us. We all have parts that just operates purely off of emotion, much like children do. The problem is that when somebody is in their 30s or their 40s or their 50s, their 60s, their 70s, and they have a certain amount of life that they've lived, and they have a certain number of accomplishments that they deem worthy and respectable, and that society deems worthy and respectable, all of a sudden we start getting it in our head that, well, because, now I am of this adult level, and I enjoy doing this thing, that now I have the right to always do this thing regardless of how it feels on my body, and I don't want there to be any negative repercussions. And we're saying, yeah, it doesn't actually work that way. Sometimes you just have to take a step back and ask yourself, okay, if I was a 3-year-old child, would I allow myself to continue to do this thing? And more times than not, you know what that answer is. And oftentimes, if you know the thing is making you feel lousy, that answer in your heart of hearts, you know is a no. But here's the thing, it doesn't mean it has to be a no forever. It just means that for right now, it's a no. And then we get back to doing it at a later time. And so the question becomes, okay, well, what is it between now and that later time that we need to be doing in order to be able to get back to doing it?
That's right. Now, aside from the clear example of not letting your 3-year-old jump off of a 6-foot opening, a 6-foot cliff basically at the park, some of the common things that we see here in our studio that flares people up, that people really like doing, are things like golf, or walking really long distances, or needle pointing, or tennis, gardening, pickleball, any of these types of activities that are part of your hobby life, or something you do regularly, something and a lot of people identify with them. Like, I am a golfer, I am a pickleballer, I have my social club. But what's happening is that it's wearing down your body, and the frustration and that you're in this weird spot where it's like, well, clearly I know that golfing is irritating me, but I'm a golfer, so I can't not golf. Well, you can not golf for a section of time. We are going to tell you what you can do to boost yourself in the meantime. But these are some of the examples of what commonly are flaring people up, especially in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, because they are a big tax on our bodies, and we just need to get your body more prepared to handle these activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially along the lines of things like sports, and golf is a sport, pickleball is a sport, walking, tennis, they are sports. The thing about sports is that if you're not spending as much time preparing your body to do the thing as you are doing the thing, then it's just inevitable that your body is going to break down doing the thing. And the reason we can say that with such certainty and with such conviction is because the people who do those things at a really high level, who we may consider to be genetically predisposed to being able to do those things at a really high level and for a really long period of their life, they have to spend a disproportionate amount of their time, energy, effort, focus, attention towards getting their body ready to go do the thing. So what this means is if you like golfing, and the way you show yourself that you like golfing is by golfing, 2 or 3 rounds a week, 30 weeks out of the year, but you don't spend any time doing strength training, you don't spend any time doing mobility work, you don't spend any time taking care of your muscle system, with MAT or anything like that. You just go and do the thing. We have to understand that the people who actually do the thing the best and do the thing the longest at the highest level, they're spending so much more time, getting their body ready to go do that thing than they are actually doing the thing. And so if you're not at least trying to emulate what they're doing from that perspective, then you're setting yourself up to not be able to do that thing for as long as you'd want. And so if you're at that point, again, we're not saying you need to stop forever, but right now, one of the best things that you can do is to stop doing that thing for a period of time.
And Charlie, to piggyback on that, I do want to highlight, it is possible that one of these activities, let's just pick on the golfers, because we love the golfers. Let's say in college you golfed, right? And you could golf all day, drinking with your buddies, or maybe you were more of the athletic golfer where you're not drinking, whatever. You can handle the stress. And now you're in your 30s, now you're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, and you're noticing, hey, my body's not handling this so well. But I am a golfer, and I've always golfed. I mean, in my 20s I could golf and do all the things. Right? And so what happens over time too is that as your body gets older, you can't handle as much stress, especially if you haven't been keeping up with other body maintenance things in terms of strength and endurance and function. And so it is possible that something that felt fine at one phase of your life doesn't feel so fine at another phase of your life. And again, having this temporary pause to get to have your body stop getting flared up time and time again, and reinserting some other activities to build up your system is what we're really suggesting here.
Absolutely. Okay, so how do we go about doing this? Well, we have two things that you need to prioritize that must become your primary focus if you want to make sure that you're able to keep doing that thing that you want to do for the long term, even though right now you're going to put it on pause. Okay, the first thing is muscle activation techniques, MAT. Okay, the entire reason why MAT exists is to be able to get muscles that aren't working well, that aren't moving you well, that aren't contracting well, that aren't supporting your joints, your ligaments, your discs, your tendons, your fascia, everything like that, get them working better. So those areas can continue to be supported. So you can continue to perform at a high level. So you can continue to do the things that you want to do with fewer issues, all right? And so because that is the entire purpose of MAT, figure out which muscles aren't doing their job and get them working better, get them back up to speed. For us, that is step one of like, okay, well, how do I get my body working and functioning better? It's muscle activation techniques. Again, the MAT process is purely designed to figure out what muscles within your system are not doing their job and then get those muscles working better so you don't have to compensate around them, so you don't have to consistently feel achy and tight and sore and beat up when you go and try and do these activities, because you have more muscles now supporting your structure, you have more muscles helping out to do the things that you want to do, and you're able to use the right muscles in the ways that you want to use them. So for us, step one is muscle activation techniques.
That's right. You know, a lot of times when we go into activities, or at least the stories we've heard is like, well, I felt fine before I did it. And then it was like, you know, halfway through the pickleball game, you know, everything was flared up. But in reality, many people don't enter their activities fine. They're asymptomatic, but there are muscle imbalances. A lot of muscles that are inhibited, a lot of muscles that are working really well. And so what MAT does is we try to get you so that when you do enter your activities, you are as functional as possible. We are getting the muscles as strong as possible entering the activity, and so there's way less likely for flare-ups. You're going to be more powerful, and you're going to have more muscles on board ready to help you through, you know, any of those motions that you might be doing in your activities.
Exactly. Just like with your car, if you were to have your car be idle for 10, 20, 30 years and not use it all, and then you're like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna go try to drive my car like pretty hard, pretty fast, like I used to back in the day, and you didn't take the time to get it tuned up, like would you really be that surprised if your car was kind of operating not the best, okay? Or on the flip side of that, if you have been driving your car hard and fast, you know, since back in the day, and you continue to do it, you've been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years, but you never took the time to get it aligned, get its oil changed, you know, check its tire pressure, everything like that, would you really be surprised that at some point it started to not run the best, okay? And so we clearly understand this with our automobiles, but it's really hard for us to accept this with our bodies. MAT is like bringing your body into the auto mechanic and saying, okay, where do I need my body to be tuned up from a muscle perspective so I can keep running hard, I can keep running fast like I used to back in the day, and make sure that I can keep doing these things for the foreseeable future.
Now, to add to getting muscle activation techniques, it's important that you are regularly strength training. Now, I know some of our audience is already strength training, so keep doing that. But if you aren't currently strength training, it's time to start. There is one thing that teaches your body to keep strength, keep power, keep endurance, and that is to regularly practice your strength, power, and endurance in a structured way, not in like a random way that you might do, you know, in golf or in pickleball or other sports that you might be doing. But it's important that you regularly teach your body, hey, all of my muscles here, I need you to stay strong. I need you to not atrophy. I need us to stay as conditioned as possible. And so making sure that you are regularly strength training so that you're teaching your muscles, hey, make sure that we're staying strong, capable, functional. And when you marry this with MAT, then you're using more and more of your muscles. You're using them to a greater amount. And that's going to really play into you being able to do your hobbies and do your activities when it's time to return to them at a fuller amount and prevent flare-ups like you were having before.
Absolutely. This is a huge piece of the puzzle, but user beware, because a lot of times the way people like adding in strength training becomes more sport-like in nature than not, meaning they will join, a small group class or a group fitness class, and you might like do these circuits where you're just kind of going around the room, you're trying to keep up with the class, or, do the number of sets and reps on the screen, keep pace with the time and everything like that. And what ends up happening is you get more focused on what's going on outside of your body. Again, keeping up with the class, keeping the pace, doing the number of sets and reps that have been prescribed, everything like that, versus really focusing on what's going on within your body. And that is such a big distinction and is going to make such a dramatic difference of how your body feels and functions during and after your workouts, switching your focus from what's going on outside of your body to strictly focusing on what's going on within your body. Now, this is what we teach you to do with our 4 exercise for life principles, which is to use your symptom-free full range of motion, control your moving and non-moving segments, move slowly, and focus on squeezing your muscles. And when you implement those 4 exercise for life principles into every single aspect of your strength training, every single strength training workout that you do, now all of a sudden you take something that for most people in the capacity that they do it is, again, more sport-like in nature than, very like restorative, rebuilding their body in nature. And you get to nudge it much more towards the latter, where you are truly rebuilding your health, rebuilding your strength, rebuilding your function, rebuilding your mobility by keeping your attention and focus on what's going on within your body the entire time you're doing the workout.
Now, if you are going to take a break from one of your activities that is flaring you up, you're adding an MAT and you're adding in strength training, eventually you'll get to add that activity back in, continuing and keeping up with your MAT and your strength training so that your body is most prepared to do that activity without having the flare-ups. Now, as we're talking, I was thinking of this like kind of a fun, I think it's like a weird story from high school. I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be so perfect for this example. Okay, so when I was in high school, I was a swimmer. And what swimmers do is after practice, we would all the girls, we would all go, keep our suits on, go in the shower, we would like wash our hair and, get ready, for whatever we're doing after swimming because we wanted to get the chlorine out. And I had this girl that we swam with and she had ringlet hair. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see that I have very straight hair with fake curls that I put in myself. So I remember I used to always wash my hair and I would do crazy hairstyles. We'd try to make it look like Cindy Lou Who and then we'd scrub it all around. It would just be like this fun thing. And then my friend with the ringlets, she joined the swim team. And when I would watch her wash her hair, if you're on YouTube, you can see me, but she would just stick her fingers in and she would like just gently scratch the areas that she wanted to wash. And I said, why do you wash your hair like that? It's way more fun to wash it like how we do it, And she's like, but Julie, I've got ringlet hair. I cannot add more tangles and think that it's going to be a pleasant experience to end the shower with the tangle-free hair. I know we're both going to, brush our hair at the end, and we both expect to leave this locker room with tangle-free brushed hair, but I can't do it the way you're going to do it because of, the status of my hair. And I thought, okay, that's crazy. But now I have a daughter with very long hair and curls, and so now I know, okay, don't do the crazy Cindy Lou hair and whatever with the shampoo soap because it's going to be a tangly mess afterwards. So how does this all come around? So in the end, we want you to do your activity, your golf, your pickleball, your walking, your gardening, your tennis, your needlepoint, whatever activity you like to do without flare-ups. Just like we both wanted to end our shower with a tangle-free brushed hair. But we're saying, hey, instead of doing some random stuff, being active throughout your day, or doing nothing at all, we want you to have a structured activity. We want you to have your MAT, your strengthening, something that's not, something that's building up your body so that you can go into this activity and know that you're not going to have a negative side effect rather than, haphazardly doing some random workout class or, some random stuff and maybe you'll get the tangles out at the end. But we wanted to give you this plan where you can do your MAT, do your strength training, so that you can do your activity without having too many tangles come up in the meantime.
That's perfect. That's a great story. So if you're wanting to experience muscle activation techniques for yourself and you're in the Chicagoland area or are willing to travel to the Chicagoland area, that is our specialty here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg. You can see our availability and get on our schedule by going to our website, www.matschaumburg.com. there's a big green button that says Get Started. You can click that and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment to get your body assessed, to get your plan laid out of what muscles are working well, what muscles are not working well, and then have the steps that need to be put in place to get all of your muscles working the way they're supposed to work. And if you would like our guidance on implementing our 4 Exercise for Life principles into your strength training, so you can use your strength training to rebuild your strength, rebuild your health, rebuild your function without leaving your workouts feeling achy, sore, or injured, that's exactly what we teach you to do within the Exercise for Life membership. You can get 30 days full access to all of our workouts, all of our programs, everything within the membership for free by going to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that is really loving the stuff that they do, but knows that deep down the stuff that they're doing is probably making their body worse, is leaving them feeling achy, beat up, sore, borderline injured every single day? Share this episode with them so they can be made aware of this public service announcement that for the time being, you need to stop doing the things that are hurting you to allow your body to heal, to allow your body to get stronger, and so then you can get back to doing those things sooner with a body that feels great and is functioning better. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to us and leave us a rating and review. Not only does it help people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise, it also helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us a 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.